Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for DHEC's virtual public meeting for the Anderson Regional Class 3 Landfill. I am Christy Ellenberg. I'm the Director of Collaborative Partnerships for DHEC's Office of Environmental Affairs, and I'll be serving as your tech host, your technology host for our virtual meeting tonight. There's several other people and our tech team assisting me tonight. I'll ask them to introduce themselves.
Hi, this is Sean Briggs.
Good evening, this is Catherine Yon.
In just a few minutes, you'll be introduced to several other DHEC staff from our Bureau of Land and Waste Management who are also involved in this virtual meeting. We are using this technology to provide opportunities for continued participation in our decision-making process while we all do our part to reduce the spread of coronavirus by following current federal and state guidelines that promote social distancing. We want to hear from all who are interested, but as the state's public health agency, we must make public health and safety a priority. We encourage you to help stop the spread of COVID by washing hands, staying home when sick, covering coughs, keeping surfaces clean, and most importantly, stay up to date and stay informed of COVID-19 by visiting our website, scdhec.org/COVID, COVID-19. I believe we have some slides with that can go with that too.
Hey, Christy, this is Sean. We may have some technical difficulties in the auditorium there. Oh, seems we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Again, tonight we are doing our virtual public hearing, and we appreciate Anderson County setting up a satellite viewing participating spot for us for this meeting. So we do ask that you stay informed about COVID-19. Your participation today is also important to us, and we are going to extensive efforts to ensure that anyone who's interested in engaging has the ability to do so. So please help us. We're continuing to evaluate these tools and accommodations, and we welcome your input and how we may be able to improve your experience with virtual participation. So after this meeting, please give us your thoughts in a feedback survey that will be posted on our webpage or shared with you later. For those of you joining via laptop or electronic device, we encourage you to close other applications running on your computer, turn off other streaming services or devices at your location for the duration of the meeting, which may help you have a better connection. All lines have been muted in order to minimize background noise and echoing so that everyone can hear the presentation. After the presentation, we'll unmute those lines and provide an opportunity for you to ask questions and share concerns. This virtual meeting will be recorded, and the recording will be placed on the webpage in the next few days, and it looks like we have already started that recording. Donna Moy will be serving as your facilitator tonight, and I'll be assisting her after the presentation with additional instructions for our Q&A. So Donna, if you're ready, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Christy. Hello and welcome. My name is Donna Moy. I am the Public Participation Coordinator for DHEC's Bureau of Land and Waste Management in Columbia. I will be facilitating tonight's meeting with a little help from my friends, and I just want you to know that it is a pleasure to be here with you, and on behalf of DHEC, I would like to thank you for taking the time to join us virtually. We are here tonight because we recognize that the Anderson Regional Landfill is an important issue in your community. We want to hear your questions, comments, and concerns about the proposed tonnage increase. Our objective for this meeting is to share information, hear your comments, and address your questions prior to a permit decision being made. The perspective that each of you brings to the conversation tonight is unique and valued. As you know, COVID-19 has impacted the way we all communicate with each other. With the number of cases steadily increasing in our state, DHEC has looked to new and innovative ways to stay connected with communities while promoting social distancing and protecting public health. This virtual public meeting was planned with these important points in mind. We are pleased to have the opportunity to talk with you in this unconventional yet meaningful way. This platform allows us to have a conversation, and as you will hear, includes the capability for you to either ask questions or type them into a Q&A board during this live event. The technology is advanced, but it also has its own unique challenges. We appreciate your patience and understanding as we work through any issues that may be disruptive. An option to attend this meeting in person at the Anderson County Civic Center was prearranged by officials with Anderson County. We ask those of you joining us from the Civic Center to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart to protect yourself and those around you. DHEC has created a web page for access to information about the landfill and the proposed tonnage increase. This meeting is being recorded, as Christy stated, and will be posted on the web page along with the presentation that is given tonight. If you are unfamiliar with that web page, the address is www.scdhec.gov/ARL. We will now move on to our agenda and introductions of DHEC staff who will be addressing your questions tonight. Their names will be shown on a slide a little later, but I will have them introduce themselves now so that you will recognize their voices. Brandon Phillips. Brandon, will you introduce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Brandon Phillips, and I'm an engineering associate in the solid waste permitting and monitoring section at DHEC. I performed the review of the application for the proposed tonnage increase of the Anderson Regional Class 3 landfill.
Thank you, Brandon. David Oberly.
I'm David Oberly, groundwater hydrogeologist for this landfill.
Thank you, David. Justin Kuhn.
Good evening. My name is Justin Kuhn. I'm the manager of the Solid Waste Permitting and Monitoring Program.
Thank you, Justin. And joining us from the Civic Center, but remaining socially distant, are Paul Wilkie. Paul, can you introduce yourself?
Paul Wilkie, the environmental manager in Anderson Environmental Affairs.
Thank you, Paul. Julie Blaylock.
Julie Blaylock, the director of the Division of Mining and Solid Waste Management at DHEC.
Thank you, Julie. And last but not least, Laura Boyce.
Laura Boyce, Community Engagement Coordinator for the Office of Environmental Affairs at DHEC.
Thank you, Laura. So we will proceed tonight with an overview of the proposed tonnage increase by Brandon Phillips. Following Brandon's presentation, our tech host will give instructions on how to participate in the discussion from your remote location. This will include how to use the Q&A board. I will then call on those of you who indicated during pre-registration that you would like to speak. Once everyone who pre-registered to speak has had their opportunity, we will alternate between those who are calling in, those who are joining from the Civic Center, the questions posted on the Q&A board, and those submitted prior to this meeting. We understand there may be a variety of concerns about the landfill. Please remember that the focus of this public meeting is on the proposed tonnage increase and that a final decision will not be based upon how many people say the same thing. There are a few guidelines I will ask you to remember before we get started. First, please be respectful of all who participate tonight. No one voice is more important or carries more weight than another. Please only ask one question at a time. We will come back to you if you have more than one. We want everyone who wishes to speak to have an equal opportunity to do so, and we also want our staff to have the time they need to answer your question. Please do not interrupt or ask others to respond while you are speaking. Should your comments or actions begin to distract from the intent of this meeting, you may be placed on mute or removed from the online platform. And finally, listen to learn the unique perspective that each person brings to the conversation tonight. With that, I will now call on Brandon Phillips to begin our presentation. Brandon?
I'm starting on slide number 7, tonight's topics. During tonight's presentation, we will be providing general information about the applicant and the site. We will talk about acceptable and unacceptable waste at a Class 3 landfill, the request for an increase to the annual disposal rate. We will provide information on the permitting process and discuss what the next steps will be going forward. The applicant is Anderson Regional Landfill, LLC, and the site is located at 203 Landfill Road in Belton, South Carolina. This site was originally permitted for a landfill in June of 1973. The applicant is requesting an increase in their annual disposal rate. The current annual disposal rate, which was established in 1999, is 438,000 tons per year. The proposed tonnage increase would allow an additional 150,000 tons per year of acceptable waste to be disposed at the landfill. The new annual disposal rate at the site would be 588,000 tons per year. I am now on slide number 9, aerial map. The aerial map shows the location of the Anderson Regional Landfill. Big Creek Road is to the west of the facility. Rector and Browning Roads are to the south. And Cannon Bottom Road is to the east of the facility. The area highlighted in blue is the boundary of the parcels owned by the applicant. You will notice purple lines inside the blue boundary line. Those designate the 5 individual properties that form the blue boundary line. There are several wastes DHEC considers acceptable to dispose in a Class 3 landfill. Those include municipal solid waste, non-hazardous industrial waste, construction and demolition debris, sewage sludge, other non-hazardous waste, and household hazardous waste. DHEC considers waste such as infectious waste, hazardous waste, trees, stumps, limbs, and other land clearing debris unacceptable for disposal in a Class 3 landfill. I am now on slide number 12, tonnage rate increase request. An existing Class 3 landfill may request an increase in their annual disposal rate when operations are within 20% of the permitted annual disposal rate. In fiscal year 2018, the facility disposed of 426,631 tons, which is over 97% of their permanent disposal rate. While this chart shows data back to fiscal year 2014, the department went as far back as fiscal year 2005. All reports show that no out-of-state waste has been disposed at Anderson Regional. I'm now on slide number 14, permitting process for major modification. The applicant submitted an application on February 13th, 2020. DHEC placed the draft permit and public meeting on public notice and notified adjacent landowners on May 29th, 2020 and June 3rd, 2020. On July 10th, 2020, the DHEC public comment period closes. Going forward, DHEC will review all of the comments received and make a final decision. DHEC will provide notification of the final decision and a written response to all comments to everyone on the mailing list. The final decision date begins a 15-day appeal period. You can submit comments by mail or email through July 10th, 2020 to Justin Kuhn. Also, the draft permit can be found at the website listed at the bottom of this slide. You can use the contact information provided on this slide to contact the central office DHEC contact, myself, Brandon Phillips, or the local office DHEC contact, Sabrina Prince. Also, the website at the bottom of this slide can be used as a source for information regarding the Class 3 landfill tonnage increase. This concludes the technical presentation of tonight's public meeting. At this time, I am going to turn it back over to Donna Moy, and we will begin the session shortly. Thanks.
Thank you, Brandon. We did want to go ahead and mention, for those of us joining us from the Civic Center, that you may see some of our staff on their cell phones. Rest assured, they are not ignoring you. They are communicating with us during this meeting to make sure that we are aware of any questions or anything that comes up from your location there. So we just wanted to make that note before we went ahead. So before we begin calling on those of you who pre-registered to speak, our tech host, Christy Ellenberg, will give instructions on commenting from your remote location and using the Q&A board. Christy?
Thanks, Donna. As Donna noted, tonight is really important for us to be able to hear from you in the time we have tonight, and here are just a few guidelines to help us. We are recording this meeting as a reminder. That'll be a resource to our team and also something we can share with those who may not be able to join the meeting. A copy of that will be made available on our website. Again, as Donna noted in kind of those ground rules earlier, please be respectful. This is a different way to do a meeting. We may need to mute someone if there's some extra background noise, but we will be calling on you and helping you share in the discussion. We do want to also be able to assist by making sure we have one person talk at a time, and we're going to assist with that. And in the interest of time, we ask that you focus on asking kind of 1 to 2 questions, make sure we're hearing from all of you, and as time allows, we can continue that conversation. There are 3 ways tonight to ask questions or request to speak, and 2 of those are electronic. And so we're going to be turning those electronic features on really shortly. We have a Q&A tab, which you can use in the meeting if you're joining via laptop or an electronic device, and you'll be able to go to that and type in a question. So there's a tab, as you're seeing, kind of this is our slide showing, it'll be opening up shortly, but not quite yet. You'll be able to go between the presentation or Q&A. That tab is just below the presentation box and above your individual meeting controls. So when you go to that, you can go between the Q&A and slides. And then if we go to the next slide, when you click on that Q&A button, you'll see a screen that lets you be able to type in the question that you have. That'll be seen by our moderators, and then Donna and I will make sure that that is shared with the group. And we're going to turn in that feature now. Additionally, you can ask a question verbally, and if you go back to the presentation slide, you'll be able to see how to do that as well in the next slide. So you can ask that question really by unmuting. You can unmute your line by clicking on the microphone icon on your screen if you're joining us electronically. If you're joining by phone, you use *6 on your phone to be able to unmute yourself. And if you are live in the Civic Center, we ask that you please coordinate with our staff that are on hand. Again, as Donna said, you're going to see them communicating with us using their cell phones via text so that we can make sure that we're getting you in the lineup and heard from as well. So our tech team is going to be noting which lines are unmuted and calling you to speak in order using the last 4 digits of your phone number, or if you are logged in electronically, we'll use your last name. And again, when it's your turn to speak, please state your name and ask your question or share your comment. If there are some reasons that you're experiencing difficulty with muting or unmuting your line, you still have other ways to submit your comments via mail and email, and we'll be happy to try to assist you beyond this meeting as well. Donna?
Okay, thank you, Christy. So as I mentioned, we're going to start off with those of you who pre-registered to speak. The first of our 5 speakers will be Ms. Isa Ward. We will then hear from Hazel McCullough. And after Ms. McCullough, we will hear from Holly Garrett. So Ms. Ward, if you would like to make your way to the microphone if you're at the Civic Center, or either unmute your line by clicking the microphone on your screen or by using *6 if you are joining us by phone.
Donna, she's with us. Mrs. Ward, you can just go ahead and start speaking.
Staying here.
Donna, can you hear her?
We sure can. Thank you.
Great. You can go ahead and start
hear
speaking.
me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
They can't hear me either. Maybe I should step back further. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Ms. McCullough. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Coon. I really wasn't expecting it set up like this, and I had some information, something new to share that other people may not have known or whatever, but I'm going to have to kind of do it in a little bit different way than I anticipated, because I actually had a map here for you to see. Can they see me?
No, we aren't able to see.
Okay, well, I'll just have to explain the map since you can't visually see it.
Would it help if we went back to the slide with the map?
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Would it help if we went back to the slide that has the map of the landfill on it?
No, that's all right. That's all right, thank you. Anyway, what I was wanting to bring to the meeting tonight, I need to give a little background information before so everyone can understand what I'm talking about. I live on Compton Road, which is on my property about probably a half mile or so where the property is from the landfill. But my neighbor at the bottom of our hill is Miss McCullough, and actually she's scheduled to speak after me, so you'll know who she is. But she's had a phenomenon to happen over the course of over the course of about 16 months. Let me back up and explain this too. Where she lives at on Compton Road, her family members live there as well. And it's like about 4 houses right in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4. And each of her family members live in those houses. And over the past 16 months, within 16 months, she has had from each of those homes 1 family member to die within 16 months. First was her oldest brother. He had lung cancer. The second, he died in 2018. Okay, next was her sister-in-law, Ruth, who lived next door to her. She died in 2019. And then she had, third person, she had her son, who died. And that was in the year 2000. He died first in the year 2000, and he had prostate cancer. And then she had another brother that died a couple months after her son died, and he had lung cancer. So there's 3 cases of lung cancer, 1 case of prostate cancer within an 16-month period, 1 family to the other. Now that is a phenomenon in itself. Wouldn't you agree? But what this phenomenon did to me, it got my curiosity up. I said, well, you got a concentrated area here where 4 people have died with cancer within 16 months. So I made a little project for myself. Met some new neighbors. I went on Big Creek Road, and I actually went door to door speaking to every neighbor and gaining information. Actually, I figured it was like between the what little bit on Compton and Big Creek, it was a span of like about a mile distance, right there at the landfill. So I went from door to door and gathered information, and what I asked these people that owned the homes, I said, I wanted to know if there's anybody in your family that has had cancer, died of cancer, that since they lived, on the landfill. And I had the map here. Maybe I can see it a little bit. But anyway, I worked hard on it. But I have marked in red. I have marked in red the areas that.
I'll take a picture of it.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you.
See if we can get it loaded so that we can see it on the
Okay.
screen.
Tell me when you're ready.
It might take a minute, so keep talking. I won't get it.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I'll let anybody that wants to see this map after this is over, so you will know what I'm talking about and it helps explain things. But anyway, the area of concentration of my neighbor, which is Hazel McCullough, which will be speaking next, is right here on this map. And this is Compton Road. I also live on Compton Road. Okay, this road here is Big Creek Road. And all the brown that you see on the map, that is the landfill property. And any of the green is actually vacant land. It just kind of helps narrow down the places that I visited when you look at it. Anything in black is areas outside of the area that I was doing a little research on. So, in other words, I did not go down all the way down Big Creek Road, just that section. I did not go down Garin. I did not go down Elrod, Browning, Rector, or all the way on the other end of Big Creek. Because I wanted to see if there was another concentration of cancer on Big Creek Road. Because I have a friend that lives on Big Creek Road, and she started telling me about the people she knew that had cancer. So it very much got me interested in talking to these individuals and finding out from them firsthand. And I've got notes with names, dates of how long they lived there, the dates that if they died, dates they died, what the cancer was. Not anything you could ask for. I have that information, but I obviously can't share it here. But I do have it if anyone wants to see it. It does have names on it, so I'm not going to repeat names because it could be private. But, all right, I want to share with you my findings from that research that I did. I've been working on this for over a week, and I've been calling people and trying to get them to come to this meeting. All right, understand that the figures that I am going to give you today, that 95% of my figures of cancer, people with cancer currently had cancer and still living, or had cancer and died. That 95% of those people, their cases of cancer was from 2016 to the year 2020. Currently. So this is not old information. This is not information from 20 years ago. This is all occurred within 16, 17, 18, 19, 5 years. Now there are a few that I got on here that are a little older, but I went ahead and listed them too because they were cancer patients, but prior to this. All right, I am going to read my findings of that data, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on that with the map. Okay, From my findings, 19 homes had 21 cases of cancer in human and domestic animal life.
Ms. Ward, could I ask you just to scoot a little bit closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go. Thank you.
I must be sliding forward.
We want to make sure we hear everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, I'll repeat that last statement. It's very important. My findings was a collection of data that I did. 19 homes that I contacted and spoke to had 21 cases of cancer in human and domestic animal life. That breaks down to 16 human cases of cancer, of which 10 died. 5 domestic animal cases of cancer or tumors, of which 3 died. 4 dogs, of which 2 died, and 2 dogs that are still living and have tumors that are still growing, and a horse that had cancer and had to be put down. Now I'm going to break that down a little further where it's per home. 12 homes had 16 human cases of cancer. Now granted, some homes had 2 people with cancer. One person in particular is someone that he had 3 cases of cancer himself. I think the first one was 2000. I left my notes there. I didn't know how I was going to do this. I think the first one might have been in 2020, not 20. Maybe in 16. But the other case was a lung cancer, and this was in 2000. And then after he got his lung cancer, he had surgery. And after the surgery, the surgeon told him that he had 2 types of cancers in the same lung. So that's 3 cases of cancer that I counted for that one person. And I thought he was going to be here tonight. He may be, and if he is, he might want to speak on that. But anyway, that's 12 homes had 16 cases of cancer. 3 homes had 5 domestic animal cases. 4 homes had cancer, 4 homes had no cancer that they were aware of. And let me remind you that the cancer that we are not aware of, that's the ones that kills us the quickest. As a matter of fact, when I was talking about Ms. McCullough and her family, 2 brothers, sister-in-law, and a son, 2 of those people had cancer that they were not aware of, and they lived about 3 weeks. Okay, and there was one home I could not reach. I'm trying to be very detailed on that.
Ms. Ward?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
This is Donna Moy again. I can tell that you have spent a great deal of time putting together this information for us, and we do really appreciate it, and I hope that you will be willing to share that with us, maybe even have some of our staff bring it back to Columbia. But we would certainly like to continue this conversation with you. I would ask at this point, you mentioned, Ms. McCullough will be speaking next. If you could just go ahead and wrap up kind of what you wanted to say so that we can move on, and then if we have time to come back to you, we'll be glad to do that.
All right, thank you. About the only other thing I was want to point out in this map, if you can see the top center of that map, that's the area of cancer there was the domestic animal cancer. And that particular area just happens to be very straight adjacent to the landfill of where they are now dumping the trash on the new section. And there is actually a lady there that I had met that her and her husband grew corn that she really liked sweet corn, fresh corn. But the past 4 or 5 years, she said they were not able to grow that corn any longer because it was too much trouble, and because that corn would develop a disease that had growths on it. Now, take in consideration that prior to that 4 to 5 years that they tried to grow corn, previously they were growing it for like 9 to 10 years, no problems. And she lives right across where the news area where they are dumping. And she told me as well, the corn that she grew, they always planted it in the back. That's the furthest to, the closest to the landfill. And she said that none of the vegetables that she planted on the other side of the corn, away from the landfill, had any problems with it. So that's another phenomenon. We got animal phenomenon, vegetation phenomenon, and we got the clusters. If you look down below on the bottom of that map, that's a cluster. That's a cluster of where those cancer cases were. And that is right across more from where they used to dump all the trash. So you got, actually you're looking at 3 phenomenons right there. And that I think that is very, very important that this could be investigated further. And I'd be glad to talk with Mr. Kuhn about, any of the information that I had gathered, and just let him see physically that what I'm saying is so. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ward. And we can certainly get some more information from our cancer registry folks to share with you, but we very much would like to have that discussion with you after tonight. So please make sure that we have your contact information so that we can get a hold of you.
Hey, Donna, just a few notes from the tech team, if I can.
Yes, please.
First, if you do toggle back to the presentation, our team there in Anderson was able to take a photograph of the map that was being referenced by Ms. Ward, and that is available for others to see, and we'll be able to make that available. We will be going back to our presentation, I'm sure, at some point, but that is available if someone goes to their presentation tab. They may have their Q&A tab open and not be able to see that right now. Also, we've seen a few numbers that have unmuted themselves and then remuted. So I just want to make sure we recognize that we are keeping track of that or trying to watch for that as well. So as we go through these comments, we did see a number ending in 9791 and 8846 that had unmuted. I think I may have missed one or so. So if you do mute yourself or unmute yourself with *6 and then mute yourself again, we are trying to track that as well. So just wanted to make sure you know that we're seeing everyone virtually raising their hands. That's it, Donna.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, so next up we will hear from Ms. Hazel McCullough. Is Ms. McCullough at the Civic Center as well?
Yes, Donna, she is. She's making her way to the microphone now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Ward was talking about my family. Sure, I had a son to die. He died in January. I had 2 brothers to die. One was a month ago. I had another brother to die in December. I had a sister-in-law died in September. Okay, I got a house on Big Creek Road. It's almost joining the landfill. Okay, ever since the landfill been there, I cannot use my water. I cannot drink my water. All I can do is take a bath, wash clothes with it. And the smell is so bad. When you come out of the house, it just hits you in the face, and it almost makes you sick. You know, I cannot live there on that property with it with the smell that's so bad right there where I live at. And if you want to check that out, you can see where my house is and where the landfill is. It won't even be, if I wanted to sell it, I couldn't. Because people are not going to move where it's a smell at a place. The place will be there till you're dead and gone. You won't be able to do nothing with it. And I did not have that problem until the landfill came in there and just ruined my property. It ruined it. And now I got 4 members of my family is gone. My son is gone. You know, that's in one family. Now you think about that. Now you want to increase, but when you increase all this stuff, where is it going? People won't be able to live around there. Not only my house, other people that live on Big Creek Road. They won't be able to stay there because of the smell. I'm telling you, it's an awful smell. If you get up in the morning, it just smells like something dead or rotten eggs or whatever it is. You know, a lot of people don't consider as what's happening to my family. It could happen to yours as well as mine. But that's just all I want to tell y'all. I got 4 members of my family is gone on. And I cannot use the water that's on my property. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McCullough. I was just trying to familiarize myself here with the map and where you are in relation to the landfill. So we appreciate you letting us know that where you live. And Justin, I don't know if maybe you want to address what has been done most recently concerning the odors at the landfill, and then also how the water is being monitored, the groundwater is being monitored.
Sure. So, you know, we had a fair amount of complaints regarding odor maybe 18 months ago or so. And I know the company has gone in and done extensive work in upgrading their gas system and replacing some lines and making sure that they're getting a better vacuum on the hill to extract those gases, and making sure that they're directed to the flare, which can, you know, greatly reduce the amount of odors in the area. You know, our regional staff fields a lot of those complaints, and you know, I think in speaking with them before the meeting, the number of odor complaints in the area have gone down, and you know, I think they've just done a lot of work on improving that gas system. You know, as far as the water goes, they have a groundwater monitoring network at the landfill, and I'm going to let David Oberly talk a little bit about some of the monitoring requirements and you know, how often they're required to sample, that type thing. Can you hear me?
Yes, David.
Okay. Yes, I'm the person who receives the monitoring reports for this landfill. They monitor their wells twice a year. This site was approved for a corrective action about 4 years ago due to groundwater contamination. And in that time, since in the last 4 years, they've actually had a 90% reduction in groundwater contaminants, largely attributed to their gas system has reduced those levels. As far as an odor in a well, that just tells me that sounds like iron bacteria. That could be certainly tested pretty easily, but it would not be something that's something that just happens in nature. It's very common in the state. But like I said, they've had about a 90% reduction in their VOCs, which is the chemicals they monitor their wells for.
Thank you, David. Ms. McCullough, I'm not sure if you are aware that you can contact the staff in our region office who are also on the call tonight to come out and take a look at your well. I certainly hear your concerns that they are ongoing, and we want to make sure that those are addressed not only tonight but as they occur to you directly. So at the end of the presentation, you will see a phone number and a name for our local regional office. I encourage you to call them whenever you are having a problem that they may be able to come out and check on. And aside from that, I am so very sorry for the losses that you have had, especially those recently in your family. And I can certainly understand why you are concerned. And we want to make sure that you are included in any conversation that we have with Ms. Ward after tonight regarding the cancer data that we are able to provide, and so that you're able to provide any additional input in that conversation if you would like to do that. If that sounds like something that you are interested in, please just make sure that Laura has your contact information before you leave the Civic Center tonight. Okay. So now we will move on to Holly Garrett. Ms. Garrett, are you joining us from the Civic Center as well?
No, I'm not. I'm at my house.
Okay. We can hear you fine. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, I was not aware of the observations that Ms. Ward and Ms. McCullough have noted about Big Creek Road and the surrounding areas. I'd written down some questions, but I'll briefly just kind of address my question that I had written, but I'd also like to address the comments of Ms. Ward and Ms. McCullough now that I am aware of that. So my questions that I'd written online were regarding basically like the composition of the trash going into the landfill. I was interested to know if there were like how much of the trash that's going into the landfill could possibly be diverted, whether it's because it's a recyclable or food scraps and potential compost. I think there's a big opportunity for diversion of a lot of the materials that could go into the landfill, which may reduce the need to expand the footprint. So yeah, and I can take that question like now or after, but going back to what Ms. Ward and Ms. McCullough were saying, which I think is vastly more important than that question. I think given that her drinking water has been impaired, I feel like it would be, it's the responsibility of DHEC to do a more like, and I understand that there had already been a corrective action plan, but it sounds like a risk assessment of some type where human health and the cancerous findings and perhaps a larger epidemiological study is done in the area, because I think that's the least that we owe them, to find out what their exposure might be to any carcinogens or endocrine disrupting compounds that might be coming from the landfill. And I'd also be interested in like the chemical analysis of the water, what things are tested twice a year, because it might be some things that aren't being tested that could be of concern. So yeah, I'll just leave my comments at that and my question. And yeah, I guess I'll tag on a question like what things are tested for in that groundwater monitoring network. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. So I noted that you mentioned, along with the chemical analysis of what is tested in the water, I believe when you spoke about diversion of waste, that maybe you were talking about recycling opportunities. Is that correct?
Yeah. So yeah, has there been like an audit done to see like what amount of the trash that's currently going to the landfill is a recyclable, and it might just be like misplaced there?
Okay. So,
do you have an estimate of how much of it is recyclable?
Okay. So, well, we'll go ahead and touch on that question first. Justin, did you have some information or tonight about the recycling efforts in Anderson County?
Sure. So, I don't really have a good idea of how much waste going to the facility could be diverted. I think I've seen around 40% is generally considered food waste. I think that number's pretty close. And so, here in South Carolina, we do have some programs that are developed through our solid waste reduction program here at DHEC. We have an Action for a Cleaner Tomorrow. We have Recycle Right South Carolina, or Recycle Right SC. Don't Waste Food SC. See It, Report It. And we also have the Smart Business Recycling Program. So we do a fairly extensive job of getting out in the community and promoting these recycling programs. The Action for a Cleaner Tomorrow is a K through 12 curriculum, and it's a supplement focused on recycling. And about 2,000 teachers are trained annually as part of that program. We also do presentations to reach out to about 40,000 students every year. The Don't Waste Food South Carolina campaign is designed to increase public awareness of the economic, environmental, and the social impacts of wasted food. Recycle Right South Carolina centers on letting residents know what they can recycle and where they can do that in their communities. And then the See It, Report It campaign, it asks residents to help report any tire dumping in their community. So, we have a lot of programs that we try to get out there because we really want to be promoters of recycling. Another question that you asked was what chemicals are tested for in the groundwater network. It's a very extensive list. So we have 3 appendices in our regulation that are describe which constituents have to be sampled and analyzed for at the landfill. So
could you touch on a few, or like just kind of subcategories of those things?
One moment. Go ahead.
Yes, this is David again. It's specifically the Appendix 4 list for this kind of landfill. It's located in our regulations. I can certainly get a list to y'all. It's a grouping of
Appendix 4.
Yeah, Appendix 4.
Okay.
And it's a group of volatile organic compounds and metals.
Okay.
So do you have access to that now, Ms. Garrett, or is that something we need to get to you?
No, ma'am. I'm familiar with those.
Okay. So I did want to touch back on the recycle question again, because Justin shared a lot of really great information about what DHEC does in terms of encouraging recycling with counties and with our residents of the state. But Justin, just to be clear, I believe that she was asking if there was an audit done of the in terms of how much of the waste at Anderson landfill could be recycled. And I just want to make sure that we're clear about, is that required in the proposal that we're talking about tonight?
No, Donna, that would not be required.
Okay. And then I believe the other question that you had, Ms. Garrett, was about the epidemiological assessment or a risk assessment to address the cancer questions that have already been raised. And we are certainly noting that information, and we'll use that, in our conversation in terms of the information that we share after tonight. So we thank you for asking those questions. Okay. So now we want to move on to the final two speakers who signed up in pre-registration to speak, and that was Shane Newcomb and Tim Fadul. So we will begin with Shane. Are you at the Civic Center or joining us online?
This is Shane Newcomb. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't submit any questions. This is just, my name is Shane Newcomb. I'm the district manager for Waste Connections in the upstate here in South Carolina. And so just want to take a minute to introduce myself and just say, we're always open. If anyone wants to come out to the landfill, we definitely have also the ability to have committee meetings with folks. We've done a couple of those in the past 6 months. But really just thank you for everyone's opportunity and time to coming out today and listening to everything that you guys have to say. And we welcome comments and suggestions. We want to be good neighbors and partners for the community. So that was all I really had. I didn't submit any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. We appreciate you joining us tonight. And Mr. Fadul, before we move on to you, I would like for us just to touch base with Laura at the Civic Center. Laura, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you. Can you hear me, Donna?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. I just wanted to make everyone aware we do have Representative Jay West here tonight. He is very interested in hearing from everyone, and thank you, Representative, for showing us your support and your appreciation for taking the time to spend with us tonight. Thank you. Do you have any words that you'd like to say? Sure. Okay, Representative West would like to share a few words, maybe after everyone has had an opportunity to speak.
Okay. We will certainly give him the opportunity to do that, and thank you for joining us, Representative West. So now we will move on then to our last registered speaker, which was Tim Fadul. Mr. Fadul, are you joining us from the Civic Center?
No, I'm on phone.
Okay, thank you. We can hear you fine. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I work with Shane Newcomb and assisting the landfill. And like Shane, I did not submit any questions. I just simply checked that box in anticipation that I may be called on to answer some questions by the folks that we actually have there at the Civic Center.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate the involvement by your company in this process tonight, and I'm sure that the residents are glad to know that you are joining us as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So that concludes everyone who pre-registered to speak. We will now begin alternating between those who are calling in, those who are joining from the Civic Center, and the questions posted on the Q&A board.
So, Donna, I'm here to help you a little bit. We have had 3 numbers that I saw that unmuted earlier, and we do have one in the Q&A. So maybe we can start with the first of those phone numbers, which ends in 9791. If the guest who is calling in from the phone number ending in 9791 can unmute, we can take that question or hear those comments and concerns. Again, to unmute, you hit *6 when calling in by phone. There you go.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I'd seen you unmute earlier. All right. Let's go to the next phone number that I saw was the phone number ending in 8846. I'm sorry, 8446. There was a guest calling in from that number ending in 8446. If you use *6, you can unmute your line.
questions tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Donna, I think I caught a few people who were practicing how to unmute. And
Okay, well, good.
let's try one more that we had. I thought I saw an unmute from the phone number ending in 7323. Again, to unmute your line, you use *6. Caller, can you go ahead? We see you're unmuted there, but I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Hey, how are y'all?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and thank y'all for hearing the community's concern with this stuff. The main concerns I have is I've lived here for 30 years. We're well over 2 miles away from the landfill. We live near the career center, and we smell the landfill here more so in probably the past 2 or 3 years than we ever have. And my concern is if we increase tonnage, that's going to get worse, and that the cell that they're trying to cover up every night or trying to prevent from smelling is going to get worse. I don't know if there's anything more that can be done to mitigate that. I'll let you touch on that. Also, there's trash on the side of the road. The roads are tearing up, and this is a high value business that doesn't really seem to be doing much for our community at the moment. And the last thing I had was, how far out should someone be concerned about well water? It seems like not much, due to the fact that Miss McCullough didn't need to worry too much and she lived directly behind it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not get your name, sir. Could you let us know?
I'm sorry. It's Daniel Yarborough.
Daniel Yarborough, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for those questions, Mr. Yarborough. So I have here that you are concerned about the odors and the trash on the side of the road, and how far out someone would need to be concerned about their well water. So I'm going to kick off to Justin to begin addressing those questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the odors, we kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. They've done extensive work on expanding their gas system, making improvements there. They have some alternate daily covers that are approved, some tarps. One of the best ways to reduce odor is maintaining that the nightly cover, 6 inches of dirt or material, other approved materials such as the tarps, over the waste. Let's see here. Other comment that you made was the well water. How far away do you have to be before you are concerned with your water? Right now everything is on site. We don't have any indication that there's any constituents of concern off the landfill property. We have a very extensive groundwater monitoring network at the site, and the outside groundwater wells do not show any type of contamination. One comment that you had about the trash on the side of the road, a lot of times the landfill company has a program in place. So this may be a good question for Waste Connections, if they could provide some input on that. So I can turn that over to Laura. Yeah.
Yes, he's walking to the mic now.
So I'm Nelson Breeden. engineer for Waste Connections. One of my sites is Anderson Landfill.
Are y'all able to hear him?
Sorry again?
Yes.
Okay. Could you step just a little bit closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Hi. So I'm Nelson Breeden. I'm an engineer with Waste Connections. One of the sites that I serve out of the 4 states that I work in is Anderson. For that, we have multiple different mechanisms that we use to take care of the roadways. One is tarps on trucks. Those are constantly monitored by our scale house attendant as they're coming on and off. The others are, we do employ 2 different groups of people, as I understand it, to be able to go and pick litter in different areas along the routes. We are confined to a particular route that's been negotiated with the county. And then the county has their own that Greg's in charge of. And we support those as well. So, does that answer that question?
That did, Nelson. Perhaps you can share a phone number with us, maybe, of someone that could be contacted there at the landfill if something is noticed that would need to be addressed. Maybe through your citizen board.
So we have a number to call with any complaints or concerns, and our landfill manager, Chris Kosker, is coming up now to give that number because I don't have it committed to memory.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Greg, what's that number again? 338. All right, you guys hear me?
I heard 338.
338-1815. If you have any concerns or complaints about any trash on the roads, Chad will happily take the call and we'll get someone out to clean it up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Again, that number is it 864-338-1815. And we will be glad to post that on our webpage as well. If you're unable to get it tonight. So, Mr. Yarborough, does that address your questions?
I think so.
Okay. If you think of something else, please just let us know by unmuting or put your question in the question and answer board. And I see that we already have Ms. Holloway, who is participating via the Q&A board. So I would like to read her question off now. I live in the Belton city limits, and we have recycling pickup on Thursdays by Powell Company. Does all that recycling of plastics and glass also go into the landfill, or does it go into another location? So I'm thinking that maybe, I don't know that DHEC has that answer. Could someone from Waste Connections possibly address that?
Yes, Donna, we've got Greg Smith with Anderson County Solid Waste coming up to the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Greg Smith with Anderson County. I'm the Solid Waste Director. A couple things that was asked in the recycling program. What do we do? Well, the county has a lot of convenience centers throughout the county. We do take recycling at all those convenience centers, anywhere from cardboard, plastics, bottles, and jugs. Don't necessarily just go by the 1 and 2 because it depends on the markets that we're dealing with right now. So basically, they are asking for bottles and jugs. We do take mixed paper. We also take clear glass, green glass, and brown glass at those sites. We also take aluminum cans and steel cans, and of course, we take the metal like refrigerators without the food, please. Also, we take washing machines, dryers, that kind of metal scrap that you have around your house. You were asking about Powell's. They run a curbside program. We're going to work a little bit on that educational process. That they should be taking cardboard, plastics, and the plastics, bottles and jugs, and the mixed paper. Not so much on the glass on that because the glass gets broken, mixed up, and all that, and the company does not want mixed up glass. We're one of the few, definitely in the upstate, that still have a glass recycling program. Some have discontinued. So we're proud that we still are doing that. We had to kind of discontinue for about 8 weeks due to the COVID, trying to figure out what's going on with that. A lot of counties that were doing it did the same process we did because we just didn't know about the contamination side of things and all that. But we are back running those routes. We started back 1st of June with that. So we're proud that we're going with that. Another question that was kind of brought up about the littering, like on Highway 20 or Big Creek Road. We do have, I'm also over environmental enforcement, which if you see a truck and give me a tag number or anything like that, just like if you call Chris, I promise you, if we have a tag number, we will track it down. We will deal with the company personally on that. And the one thing I will say about the landfill, they had a hauling company at one time, didn't like the way they were handling some things, so they discontinued with that company, went with a company called Atomic that now brings it in, and we've watched them coming into the landfill and all that. They are tarped up about as good as I've ever seen. So, but we're still watching, and like I said, you got a mixture of things out there. I mean, there's a lot of throw-out trash all over the county. We do have an educational process where we go into schools, but of course the last few months and all that, we weren't able to go into schools and work on that. We're definitely willing to go to community meetings or anything like that to help advertise what we're trying to do on the recycling side as well as stopping litter. But I have 3 litter enforcement guys that serve the whole county. They're running and gunning all the time, so somebody's got a trashed up yard. We go out for that, as well as looking for folks that are littering going down the highways or illegal dumps. So they're pretty busy. They handle about 180 to 200 calls a month, those 3 guys. So they push hard to try to get the needs situated. But like I said, if you got any trouble with the trucks, I'll leave my number out there also. It's 864-260-1001. Does that answer all those questions?
I think it does, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much for being available tonight to address those. We certainly felt like that would be a good question for you to answer on behalf of the county, and I'm sure that our participants are glad to have your number too if they have any questions after tonight. So thank you so much. I see that Ms. Holloway has asked another question, but Laura, I would like to just touch base with you and see if you have anyone who has indicated they would like to ask a question or make a comment.
Do we have anyone currently that would like to ask a question? If you do, one at a time, please make your way to the microphone. It looks like we do have someone that would like to ask a question. We might have a couple, Donna. And while we wait, Donna, would you be able to repeat that last phone number that Mr. Smith provided, just to make sure everyone got it?
I sure will, and we can put this on our website as well after tonight for reference. That is Greg Smith. His phone number is 864-260-1001. The contact number again for Waste Connections about the landfill is 864-338-1815.
Great, thank you. Okay, we've got someone with a question. Go ahead.
My name is Donna Robertson, and I live on Big Creek Road, straight in front of the dump. I know with the added tonnage increase means increased traffic. The roads are horrific. I, right now, in front of my house, have a pothole on the side that is closest to the landfill in that lane. I was cutting grass today, and a large truck, I'm assuming it was a trash truck, was headed back away from the dump and hit that hole, and a piece of asphalt larger than a baseball popped out and came into my yard. So that's a concern. Just the bad roads because of all the traffic is a concern anyway. They constantly are filling in these holes with patch asphalt and leaving, and it's cracked and crumbling and before a week's out. That's one concern. My other question is, do y'all have night traffic that comes to the landfill? Because we hear doors and things like car doors and things a lot, and it sounds like it's coming from across the road, and there's nothing else across the road for me besides the landfill.
Okay, Ms. Robertson. So I have your questions being, or your concerns actually, beginning with the truck traffic, the number of trucks going down the road in front of the landfill, whether or not there is any night traffic at the landfill, and then the condition of the roads themselves.
That's
so,
right.
I'm not sure if there's someone from Waste Connections that could perhaps answer the question about the night traffic. Or maybe someone from Anderson County.
This is Waste Connections.
I think we've got some.
Shane Newcomb. I can speak to the night traffic. We have a permitting hours, and so we don't allow anyone coming in and out of the landfill as far as dumping trash. And so if you're hearing any car doors, it's possible that it could be drivers, because we do have drivers that start from that location, and they start at anywhere from 2 to 5 in the morning. But there's no, as per se, there's no refuse trucks or garbage trucks coming in and out of the landfill before 6:30.
So if someone wanted to call to inquire about that, I'm sorry, who was it that just answered the question?
Shane Newcomb.
Yes, Mr. Newcomb, I'm sorry. The number that was provided to us for residents to call if they had any issues, the 338-1815, is that a number that is only available during working hours, or is there a message system there that if someone had a question about noise the previous night that they could leave a message?
Yes, they could leave a message and they'd be returned a phone call the next morning.
Okay. So we certainly encourage, Ms. Robertson, if you experience that again and you do believe that it is coming from the landfill, we would encourage you to call that number and have someone call you back. Maybe there was a special circumstance or something going on, but I'm sure they would be glad to address that for you. Now, as far as the truck traffic and the condition of the roads, DHEC regulates a whole lot of stuff, but that is not something that we do regulate. I don't know if someone there from Anderson County, perhaps Mr. Smith, could give us a little insight into that, or if that's something that maybe someone would need to get back to Ms. Robertson with that information. Do we have anyone with us that could speak to the truck traffic or the condition of the roads?
Mr. Smith is walking up now.
Okay.
Trying to pull up a phone number. Basically, the roads are county roads and they're state roads. Like Big Creek Road is a state road, which I think most people know that. If you see anything on that road, a phone number to call for that would be 864-260-2215. 864-260-2215. Oh, 1 second, I'll give you a...
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, was that number for the state roads or county roads?
That is for the state road.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull one for the county. If you see a situation on a county road, there's 2 ways to address that. You can call 864-260-4190, 864-260-4190. And right now, Anderson County has an app called YourGov. That actually, if you pull it up on your phone, I'm not the biggest expert sometimes, but if you pull up YourGov on the phone, it is for Anderson County. Even if it happens to be a state road or a county road, either one, you can punch that in, and it has a locator showing where it's at, where the issue is. It actually takes us directly to where that issue is. that it can be addressed a lot quicker that way. But if you put in, it'll say what the problem is. You can say paving or a pothole or something like that. If it is a state, we will send it over to the state to try to get that resolved for you. If it's county, we will handle it and get it resolved.
Okay. Seems like every day I wake up, we're hearing about new technology, and so having an app there, I think will be really useful. So we appreciate you sharing that information with us. And those phone numbers, again, we will include those on our webpage as well if you were unable to note those when Mr. Smith gave them. So now I guess we should maybe jump over to Christy and see if, Christy, you have anyone waiting to ask a question?
Yeah, I was looking, I think we can go back to our Q&A board. We're definitely getting so many questions and concerns tonight and having some great conversation. Again, let's remember that we are focusing here too, and the DHEC component is really about that landfill expansion. So there's so many related questions. We want to make sure we're getting those too, and we appreciate the county and others being able to help us respond to those things that are a little beyond that scope. Let's go back to the Q&A board. I don't see a number unmuting at this time.
Okay. Well, I had one other question from Ms. Holloway, and it is that I thought the green power plant built at the landfill in 2003 was supposed to eliminate the odors and transform the gas from waste to generate electricity for surrounding areas. So, Justin, is that something that you can address?
Sure. So, I mean, I think it really goes back to, the expansion of the gas system with the power plant there. I mean, it's really a benefit to them to pull as much gas out of the landfill to feed that gas to electricity unit. So, yes, it would greatly reduce the odors and also get a benefit by producing electricity as well.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Ms. Holloway, if that did not fully address your question, please type us another note in the Q&A board, and we'll be glad to circle back around to that. Laura, do you have anyone there with you who is ready to speak?
We do. We have a gentleman coming up to the microphone now. And we do have a couple of others here also as we cycle through the Q&A board and the folks on the phone.
All righty, my name's Andy Callahan, and I'm an old science teacher and high school football coach, and now I'm a full-time farmer, and I have a little tourism business where I bring elementary kids out to the farm, teach them how to grow food. When it comes down to the smell is still an issue. I'm constantly, when I've got 70 kids on a wagon, and we stop at the goats, and they go, "Ooh, the goats." And they're not my goats, that's the landfill. And they'll say, and then everybody, the next question, "How far away is it?" And I say, "Well, it's a few miles away." So it still is, we still do have a smell issue. I know they said they'd had decreased complaints over the last several months, but with COVID-19, probably a lot of us, our focus has been somewhere else than a stink, than the smell. I don't know about y'all. I've been concerned about my older parents and relatives. Okay, the next comment, I like to be concise and to the point, is the groundwater. I was curious if y'all are familiar with trichloroethylene. That was a chemical that was used, I think, back in the 60s, 70s, early 80s. I think it was banned because it was highly carcinogenic. As they phased it out, from what I understand, a lot of that went into our landfill, and it's under the liner. Do y'all test for trichloroethylene? And if not, could y'all test for it? And could you do a complete carcinogenic panel of the groundwater? Because, if you don't test for it, then you don't find it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't go looking for it, then you don't find it. I think it would put a lot of these people at ease if a complete panel was done, including trichloroethylene, and let them see that it's not, none of that's there. Because if we don't look, we don't know. The next thing, like I said, being an old science teacher, could y'all do a cancer snapshot? Could y'all put the landfill, do 5 square mile block around it? Okay, let's take the social demographics, income, the whole thing. Then let's go all over Anderson County, try to match up other 5 square mile areas with the same social demographics. And let's see, if that's a hot spot for cancer, then we might need to take a look. We might have an issue, because if we've got the same income level, the same people makeup in these other areas around the county, and they don't have the cancer rate, something might be going on. We might need to take a look at it, because like I told you, I'm an old science teacher, and I like to ask the who, what, when, where, and why questions. That's the only way you're going to get to the truth. And the last thing I was going to mention, I'd like to see this permit. I don't really want to see it be approved, but the bottom line, I'd like to see all the permits from this time forward have like a time set on them. In other words, if it's approved, don't make it forever, because that don't give the company no reason to behave. They know every 6 months that they're going to have to reapply for that increase. They behave and do what they're supposed to do. And I just think that would be a good idea to have some type of time permit, so that it gives them incentive to do the right thing, and it makes us more comfortable in the community. And I appreciate y'all, and I love your job y'all have to do, because I love the science part of it. Thank y'all.
Thank you. I'm sorry I did not catch your name, sir.
I believe that was Andy Callahan, if I got that right.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Well, Mr. Callahan, I will say on behalf of DHEC, we are always hiring. You are welcome to go to the website and come join us. We'd love to have you.
And Donna, we'll take the question related to trichloroethylene. It is one of the constituents that the landfill has to sample their groundwater for every 6 months. So twice a year, the groundwater does get sampled for that specific constituent.
Thank you, Justin.
Sure. And one other thing that he brought up was not issuing a permit for life. One of the things that we're required to do by law is a permit review once every 5 years. And so that's doing an extensive study of the permit and, any compliance issues that they've had, and making sure that, are there any additional conditions that need to be placed on the permit. So there is a very extensive review every 5 years for the landfill.
For the permit.
Yes, on the permit. Yes.
Okay. And so maybe you could address or someone from the region can address whenever they go out to inspect the site, what kinds of things they look at, and how often that is done. Paul, can you hear us? Would you be able to elaborate on that a little bit?
In the Anderson office, we do address the site. We do inspections. I believe this one may be quarterly or semi-annually. We also follow up on any complaints we get. When someone calls in with a complaint, we at least send an inspector out there, normally contact the facility and let them know, is there something that's been going on we need to know about. They're generally pretty forthcoming. If there's an issue at the site, they can say, yeah, we've got a maintenance issue. We've been working on this. We try to make sure they take care of it in a timely manner. And we try to always follow up with them on any other concerns we get. So we do kind of keep up, besides the 5-year review, annually, semi-annually, plus any concerns. So they get checked on fairly often. And between me and my staff, there's a lot of other facilities in that area. So we're out there in that area fairly often. If somebody has a concern, we generally can get by there fairly quickly.
Thank you, Paul. And I know that we're going to show it later, but maybe you could go ahead and tell us again what that phone number is, since we're sharing phone numbers tonight.
Oh yeah, our office phone number is 864-260-5585.
Thank you. Mr. Callahan, I would like to say that on behalf of DHEC, we are always hiring. I would encourage you to go to the webpage to look at some positions that are open if you would like to join us. You certainly sound like you keep up to date with what's going on in your community, and we thank you for that. So I mean that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but we're always willing to talk with you about any concerns that you have, and it sounds like you're very knowledgeable about what's going on with your science background. So thank you for sharing with us tonight.
And Donna, I do want to add that, as a Class 3 landfill, this facility is inspected monthly.
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
Donna, I might add into that as well. This is Christy Ellenberg again. I'm part of our environmental affairs staff. DHEC, I feel like we're very fortunate. We're one of 3 states where actually our agency combines health and environment together. And Colorado and Kansas are the others across the U.S. And it's very important all the time to be able to have that relationship between health and environment, especially important right now during COVID-19 response and looking at the coronavirus as well. As that, we do have the capability to reach out to the health side of DHEC and look at, we have a statewide cancer registry, and they track what's happening with cancer in our state by zip code, and we can check into that cancer registry for these zip codes. I know that's an issue that's come up several times tonight. Cancer is certainly a very serious ailment. It's hit so many families and communities so hard, and mine included. And we do take that very seriously as well. So there is a way that maybe we can do some follow-up looking at the cancer registry for these zip codes. I think that kind of goes to what Mr. Callahan was saying of looking at things.
It does, and thank you, Christy, for adding that information for everyone who's joining us tonight. So I do not have another question on the Q&A board at this time. I'm not sure if we'll check and see if Laura has anyone there. And maybe after that, Christy, we can read some of the questions that were submitted to us before the meeting tonight. So Laura, do you have anyone who would like to speak from the Civic Center?
We do. We have a few folks that have hands up. Mrs. Ward does want to have a chance to follow up with her original comments and questions, and we have at least one other lady that has a hand up also. Mrs. Ward, do you mind waiting just a minute and letting someone else go that we haven't heard from? We'll make sure that we get back to you, but we want to make sure we've given opportunity for others too. Thank you. Come on up to the microphone, and we'll be glad to hear your question and comment.
My name is Teresa Morgan. I've been involved with the landfill situation since it was initially sold back in the early, 97, 98 area, 97. So I've been there since the beginning. We have had numerous issues over the years with smells, with vultures, with all kinds of trucks and everything. I do have to give hands off to Mr. Chris now that he's taken over as manager of the landfill. I can guarantee you I call them at least once a week about different issues. We had some major issues with the trucking problem. I called them. Actually, I ran a couple of the trucks down and got their tag numbers and took video and everything and sent it to them. So they knew exactly who they were after, and they actually worked on that. We do have pathways that these trucks are supposed to be taken, and they are not supposed to deviate from that. If we find them on the roads that they're not supposed to be on, I call Chad. Chad calls Chris, or either I'll call Chris directly. So they have really worked on that. The vulture issue is still an issue, and it's going to get worse this summer. just because it starts smelling and it's going to happen. The landfill has taken the initiative to try to get a permit from DHEC that if they come on site, they can take care of them. My concern is the ones that are off site. And there's actually a couple of members of the community here that if you go down through there, they're on the lines and everything, and they have a lot of diseases which can occur, can cause problems. The other thing is, I don't think people realize that there's two different odors that come from that landfill. There's the methane odor, which we had an issue with a month or so ago, because if you smell it over 3 days in a row, there's a problem somewhere. And you're really going to smell it when the clouds come in, because literally the ceiling comes down and there's nowhere for the odor to go, so it dissipates out, and that's when we smell it the worst. But if you smell something over a couple of days, then they need to be notified for sure, because the last time we had this issue, I did call, and they found out they did have a problem. It took them a while to fix it just because of the rain. They couldn't get in there. But they have made some major effort trying to help us. I guess the big question is, one, how do you guarantee we're not getting any out-of-state trash? Is the first thing. And two, why do we need such an increase in the tonnage all at once? Why can we not look at every couple of years reassessing it rather than waiting 5 years? Because in 5 years, a lot can happen. So those are my two big questions. But I do want to thank the landfill at this point that they have made the effort to come out to the community. Or, like I say, if you go to them with a problem and a solution, they're willing to listen at this point. So I've got to give hands off for that. And I do want to thank y'all for coming up from Columbia. I know that was a major effort for y'all. And for me to put a mask on, I do appreciate you being here. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. We'll take those here in Columbia. So the first question that you had was, how do you guarantee that out-of-state waste does not come to the facility? I guess by law, we're not allowed to restrict where waste comes from through our permit. We had a question as to whether any out-of-state waste has come to the facility. We did go through our records all the way back to fiscal year 2005, and this is information that the landfill is required to report to us where their waste comes from. And dating back to fiscal year 2005, there's no information that says that out-of-state waste has been accepted at this landfill. But again, there is, we can't restrict the flow of waste. And that's part of the, Julie can help me out here, but I think it's part of the Interstate Commerce Act. All right, and then
Justin, this is Julie. Yes, it's the Interstate Commerce Act. So just want to make sure, and that is true. We actually went to court years ago on the same thing, and waste is considered a commodity coming from out of state, so we cannot regulate that. So.
Okay, and then the second question was, why can't they ask for this every 5 years or so? Why does it have to be so much at one time? There's really a lot of factors that play into that. One of the biggest is, I'm going to fast forward on the presentation and go to, it's our work chart that we use. This is the worksheet that we use to calculate whether or not they are allowed to increase their tonnage. So there's quite a few criteria that they have to meet. The number one criteria is they have to be operating within 20% of their permitted yearly disposal rate. Right now they're operating at 97% of their permitted rate. Number two is that the landfill the current permitted annual disposal rate can't be more than 30% of the total amount of waste generated within our state. So generated in all jurisdictions within our state. And then the third one is that the current waste generated in the state has to be more than the last time that they asked for an increase. And I know this is a lot to kind of understand, or a lot to kind of go through on this slide. But if the state as a whole if that number doesn't go up, then they can't get an increase in the future. So I guess it's a lot of a guessing game, if you will, as to how much to ask for and when you can get it.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. And also, Ms. Morgan brought up a really good issue about the methane, the methane issue. And I know that with the summer months and with rain, that can sometimes exacerbate that issue. So, Julie, would you like to speak for a moment about how we deal with that across the state?
Yes, Donna, thank you for letting me speak. Methane, I will say, well, first of all, I'm going to just address Teresa directly, and the rest of the crowd can listen. I started at DHEC 25 years ago. I was 15. Teresa was 19 at the time when we first met in 1997, and Teresa was right there with me through the entire permitting of the Allied facility. When I first started, Anderson County owned Big Creek Landfill. I remember it was the first facility I'd ever been to that I saw baled waste. Thought that was the most interesting thing in the world. And when Allied purchased this landfill, sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture of things and realize we knew Allied was going to come in and cap some of that old area of the unlined landfill with a synthetic cover, and that was going to stop some of the infiltration that ultimately causes groundwater contamination at the landfill. And yes, we do have contamination out there, as David Oberly mentioned, and yes, we do have a corrective action plan, but I do feel like I guess the contamination would be worse had we not had some kind of protective cover in the form of a Subtitle D kind of cap or liner, in this case, for what we called an amended area of that landfill. We called that piece the saddle. And like I said, I keep looking at Teresa because she was right there the entire way with us permitting this. She's also very wise. There are two odors that come from a landfill. And if you've been in this business as long as I have, you come down the road, I can be out of state driving on vacation, and I'll be like, there's a landfill nearby and they've got a gas issue or a methane issue, or they just didn't cover their waste because it stinks. Landfills are living and breathing. I mean, they change. Everybody that lives there, I thought about your family, Mr. Callahan. When I first came to the agency in 95, I think I probably dealt with either your dad or uncles. I mean, y'all have been around that landfill as long as I've been at DHEC. So I understand your concerns. And you do know that things change all the time. I know we had an issue a couple years ago. Y'all spoke up about trucks coming in at night and the smell that you got over there. That came from First Quality, from the material coming in. I think that Waste Connections heard what you were saying and they changed. They quit taking that material. It's going to another landfill now, and we're receiving some odor issues, or getting calls about odor at that facility now, but it's not going to the Anderson Regional Landfill anymore. And that goes to the point that you were saying. We have seen the management of that landfill change from Allied to Waste Connections, and several people with Waste Connections. I'm glad to hear that you and Chris have a great relationship where you can call him up. I know Tim Fadul and I, when we first met a couple years ago, he was very anxious to get a cab set up in that area. And I think y'all do have a more open relationship now. And I feel like, Nelson can address that. Tim, if he's still on the phone, can address that. But I think it is going to take a partnership in the community. I know other facilities we have in the state, we know when the sludge loads come in. They tell people, because when sludge loads come in from the wastewater treatment plants, it is going to smell, and it's not going to stop at the landfill boundary. It's just a fact of life. I mean, when those trucks are traveling down the road with sludge, you smell them. So that, I do want to just say, continue to work on these relationships that y'all are building. I mean, I understand that there are going to be days and things that landfill does that you don't like. But keep the lines of communication open, because if Chris hears you and Nelson hears you, they can try to do something to stop, the issue or remedy the issue. So, and Teresa, you've had my number for years and you know how to call me. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. So Laura, I believe that you indicated that maybe you had someone else there that would like to speak. But before we get to that, Christy, is there anyone else on the line who is calling?
We did have some lines that unmuted earlier. There was one that was ending in 5687. Our guest ending in 5687. If you press *6 to unmute again. Or we can try another number. It's one that was ending in 7755. A guest ending in 7755. Again, *6 will help you unmute when you're calling in by phone. Again, we're all adapting to some new tools and techniques here in the meeting. So, Donald, maybe we can check back in with those guests if they would like to unmute later.
Okay, thank you, Christy. So, Ms. Holloway, I see that you have another question on the Q&A board. If you don't mind, we're going to jump back over to Laura and make sure that she, if she has anyone there who has not spoken, that they have the opportunity to do so now.
Great, thanks, Donna. I know Ms. Ward has a couple of questions to still ask. Is there anyone else here that has not spoken yet that would like to speak?
I know also, Laura, that we had that Representative West.
Yes.
Was perhaps going to say a few things as well. So.
Yes. All right, Mrs. Ward, would you mind coming up to the microphone? And then we'd be glad to get to Representative West. Does that work? Okay, thank you. Oh, and we have Mrs. Wilson would like to speak too. Would you mind waiting, Mrs. Wilson, until after Mrs. Ward? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Can't hear myself. I've got a couple of questions. This is regarding the Waste Connection. You could probably answer this. I was curious of what year that they opened up the new section where they're actually dumping trash right now. That's one of my questions, when that was actually opened up. And I also have another question about that site. I went on the Anderson GIS website and was zoomed in on that particular site where they're dumping. And there's something there that I saw that I didn't understand, so I was going to ask that question today, that maybe they can clarify that. There was a water reservoir to the Big Creek side of Landfill. At that particular time, that picture was taken. And then there was another something there that looked like a dog leg shape that was black looking. And I couldn't understand what that was supposed to be. It looked like it was run into the water reservoir. And I was just curious exactly what that was supposed to be doing on that particular thing. I just want to make a comment on something. This is not a question. I understand that DHEC's slogan, I think is still healthy people, healthy community. Is that correct?
Well, that is correct.
Pardon?
That is correct, Ms. Ward.
Okay. Well, I am very, very concerned that the people living around that landfill, they're not healthy people, and the community around there is not healthy people. One thing I wanted to stress about the medical conditions that can possibly exists is the fact that these people are under so much stress. I can't even imagine how they handle it. They're 24/7, all year long, stress. And if you know anything at all about medical, it's pretty common sense. Stress can make any condition totally worse than any other person that might not be under stress. So anything that this landfill is able to accomplish and increase trash, increase noise, increase odors, what have you, that's adding more stress to these people. And that is multiplying their medical conditions. So when you do a study about what is going on around there, please take in consideration that these people are under stress. They live with it, they breathe it, they sleep with it. It doesn't go away. It never goes away. And it's got to constantly be in their head that this is here, it's going to stay here until something is going to be done. But please keep that thought in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. I do want to go back to your questions, which I believe that perhaps Waste Connections can help us answer. The GIS piece, I'm not real sure about with not having the capability of pulling that up right now, but I would ask, I'm not sure who's going to come and answer the question about the year that the section opened that is now accepting waste.
Donna, we've got someone from Waste Connections who could answer some of those questions.
Okay, great.
Hey, it's Nelson again. So in terms of what section, there's multiple different sections that happen. We tend to build every 1 to 2 years, depending upon the geometry of a particular, what we call a cell. Okay, that cell is a piece of the landfill liner system. So when you say a section, there's 2 main sections. There's, as Julie stated, the old unlined landfill. Okay, that was owned by the county in 97-ish. That's when Allied purchased it from the county through whatever means, business-wise, that came about, okay? And as such, that landfill has been capped twice. Well, capped twice and then overlaid. And when they overlay it, they're basically putting a geosynthetic and a soil cap over it, but then waste goes on the other side of it as well. So it's a liner system over top of that old landfill. At this point, that old landfill is about 80 to 85% totally capped out. Okay, we have one more overlay to build. We purchased the place in 2009, and at that point, cell 3 had not been built. We started building that about 4 years ago. We're now about to move into the amphitheater, which I call it amphitheater because it's shaped like an amphitheater. It's another portion of cell 3. So of these, I'm happy to take you, if you'd like, I can call you the next time I'm there and I can show you each one of those and tell you which year. And Chris can do it at any time he's there, and we have all the reports of when they were built, and we can develop a timeline with you if you would like. But as of right now, everything that's being constructed is to Subtitle D standards, and that has been for many, 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 many years since Subtitle D was, enacted. And that was a part of probably, I'm guessing from what I understand, the reason why the county needed to, because it is a more expensive and more complicated standard. You have multiple layers that I call it building a bathtub. You're building a bathtub out of low permeability, doesn't let much water through at all, soils, and low permeability geosynthetics, which are high density polyethylenes, along with, on top of that, drainage, because you don't want to keep that water in the landfill. We want to get it out and we take it to a wastewater plant. Some of the odors may be sludges, like what Julie was saying as well. Those come in periodically, and it is a part of I hate to say it this way, but it's a service because the wastewater plants don't have any place to take theirs. When you couple that with the increase in PFAS concerns, wastewater plants are having more and more limited places where they can take those. And the wastewater plant is what the community uses to be able to clean their waters. You know, flush your toilet, run your dishwasher, anything that you're putting down the drains, right? Well, those solids fractions have to go somewhere, and not all of those can be made into fertilizers, and it is expensive. So we do get that, and that may be some of the odors at times that periodically, I would consider that a third one, Teresa. If we leave it open, it smells. It goes without saying, but we don't leave it open. If a part of our gas system goes down, it can smell. It depends on how long and how much cover we had on it. But I can tell you, since I came on board in 2009, and I'd be happy to show you all the wells that we put in, there's not very much area that is not. And we're an NSPS site, so we're required to have a new source performance standard. We have crossed that threshold many years ago where we are now regulated by our gas system. It's no longer voluntary. However, prior to that, Allied was installing it. When we inherited the site, it was already to that point. Another clarification point, if it's okay if I talk a little bit more about some of the other questions. When we talk about the things you saw on the imagery, I'm more than happy to sit down with you on that one too, but those are predominantly what I think you're seeing are stormwater bodies. So we are required to collect the stormwater. We went into groundwater, we went into gas, but we did not, or sampling and monitoring, but we did not go into stormwater. So if it rains, that water touches our cover. If we're not doing our job, it touches the waste. And then it's collected. Every bit of water that touches the landfill has to go into a pond. Those are the ponds that you're seeing on there. Now, those ponds we have to sample on a particular frequency in different ponds and have different frequencies of testing, but they're tested for many of the same parameters that you do for the groundwater as well. And they are different as well too, because what can seep into the groundwater is different than what can run off, and still be found. Because like volatiles, they are volatile. They go poop. All right, that's how if they are exposed to the atmosphere. So any of those things that you have concerns for, please stop by. Talk to Chris to start with. I understand you have data, we have data. We can compare notes. Okay? I'm an engineer, I like data. All right. And data is the only way that I can prove to any of you guys that we actually do our job. Y'all can come out here and have a look. We offer all the time. We have to have very few people come around. All right. We can look at wind direction. We can look at whatever it is that you would like to and ask Teresa. I've spent hours on the phone with Teresa, listening to every concern, right? And out of all of y'all, she's the one we hear from the most. And we're more than happy to. Is he still picking up the phone, Chris? Teresa? Is he still picking up the phone?
Yes.
Okay, because if he's not, I have this other number, right? Yeah. All right, speed dial too. So with that being said, my point is we are in your community. If you don't come and join us and you have these concerns, we can't fix it. Okay, but we are a service to you as well. Since the COVID crisis, we've been open almost every Saturday for Greg because more people have thrown away more stuff and he can't keep up with it. And we gladly open the doors for that. Don't let it vent up. Don't let it store up to where you think that something is going on that's not. Come on, let's prove it. Because if we can't prove it to you, then we have a problem. And we need to get somebody like Julie involved to set us straight, right? So please do. I'm more than happy to, after this, to sit around and talk. We can sit outside without a mask on, 6 feet apart, okay? But don't wait, because all that does is breed dissent, discern. I can't do anything unless I know that you have that problem, okay? Now, in terms of one of the other things was the gas, and one of the questions was about the gas plant. The gas plant is owned and operated by Santee Cooper. Santee Cooper has the rights to our gas. That is one mechanism, one way for destruction of the gas to occur. We are required by law to destroy all gas that we can collect. And we're required to put in gas systems ahead of our cell construction within, it's called a 2-year, 5-year-old. All right. Now, With that, if that plant goes down, because they're like any other manufacturing plant, sometimes stuff goes wrong, sometimes things wear out. Immediately it kicks on to our flare, and our flare's on all the time anyway. It takes whatever the gas plant is not burning to ensure that it is happening, and that's controlled by a number of different factors. Okay, and I'm more than happy to go through each one of those and show you how that automatic mechanism works. So if the plant goes down in the middle of the night, which happens with big storms, when we have power surges and those kind, it's still a man-made thing that has mechanical issues. The flare is always running, and it never stops. So we're destroying that. You're not going to smell the methane once it's destroyed. What you'll see is a big candlestick. It looks like a Bunsen burner. And you can see it during the daytime, and you can see it at night. And we're more than happy to show you those things as well. So please ask any other questions. I'm more than happy to come back up after that. But knowledge is power. That's up to you guys to come to us. We also do citizens action meetings with Cindy and with Teresa, with Debbie, with the city of Belton. Anybody, it's open to anybody, and we've opened the door. Okay? So there is a mechanism that's been around now for about 2 years. I think it's working. And Ms. Wilson comes to each and every one of them. And anybody can join it. Just talk to them. They'll hook you up. Okay? Stop by and talk to Chris or Chad. Chad's at the front desk all the time. He'll be more than happy to give you a phone number and get directly in touch with Chad. But if you're mad, there's no reason to be mad, because we are making that place better than it was when it was online. Okay? And it's a service to you guys, but somebody's got to run it. And I can guarantee you that we run it much better than any county can, because we are required to, and the inspections occur. Yes, ma'am.
Would you not be mad, though, if you sit on your front porch and you saw trash?
Where are you seeing trash?
I'm on Big Creek Road. You're right across the street.
Yep.
I sit on my front porch. I see trash. You can actually see the trash on the mountain.
And yes.
So would that not make you mad?
If you saw trash, I would say that I need to beat them up.
We have a question from one of the participants here in the Civic Center. Mr. Breeden, would you mind repeating the question so that the folks on the computer?
She's saying that she can sit on her front porch and see trash. So by definition, we have to cover that trash. So if you see something, it should be soil. If he's not doing his job, that's Chris, he came up earlier, then you would see trash potentially, because we did not cover it. However, every month when we're spontaneously inspected, we don't have any trash open except for that which is at the working day. And what I'm saying is, bring it to us. Don't sit on your front porch and say you're unhappy with seeing it. You can do something about that. And Chris is required to do something about that. And I'm required to do something about that. Now, I sit in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm more than happy to receive a call from anyone. We hire him to take those calls as well and to be that voice for you guys. I do not want you to see trash. Now, you may have to see soil until we can get grass to grow, and that's not always easy. We're constantly doing it. But,
I can watch the truck dump.
Excuse me, Laura?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, this is Christy on the tech host side. Because we are using a little different platform, we do have some time limitations in this meeting, and I want to make sure the 30 minutes we have left, I want to make sure that we're hearing from, I know Laura said there were a few other people who wanted to speak tonight, so I want us to be able to continue these conversations, and I'm glad y'all are there, but I want to make sure also that we're hearing from everyone tonight.
I'm tapping out now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. Yes, we did have a few others. Representative West, thank you so much. You did indicate that you had a few things you wanted to say, but you certainly wanted to allow the community members to speak first. Is this a good time for you to make your comments? Thank you. And I know Councilwoman Wilson also wants to speak too. After Representative West, Christy and Donna, would it be possible for us to allow Ms. Wilson to speak also?
Yes, I would just like to for Christy to clarify I know it's about 8:30 now, so we have been recording this since 6:30, and we want to be mindful of the time for everyone who is participating and the time limit that we do have left for the meeting. So we want to make sure no one gets cut off. So if you could just remain mindful of that when making the comments, it would be greatly appreciated.
Ready? Cindy, basically, thank you very much for making sure everything kind of happened today with the county and with DHEC. That's very important. I'm Jay West. I am actually the House of Representatives member for District 7, where the landfill resides. So these are my constituents. I'm not going to belabor points and ask questions tonight, but one thing I do want to relay to you is in Columbia, it's a lot of politics, but we're not Washington, D.C., I promise you. We actually work and try to get some things done down there. The senator in our area is Mike Gambrill. He's in Senate District 4. We work a lot together on constituent issues and things that are taking place. Usually we have to split up when we have more than one meeting. Tonight, he sends his regards. We had 2 meetings, one in Greenwood, one in Anderson. I have the district in Anderson. He had Greenwood and Anderson, so thankfully I got to be here. But I know Mike would tell you, like he usually does, to just about everybody we speak to about these issues, the best way possible to get in touch with us, and there's a reason for it, is by email. You can always find us on email if you go to the South Carolina House or to the South Carolina Senate site. You can scroll down the members, and we're there, and our email's there. When I leave tonight, while Cindy's speaking, I'm going to slip around, and I'll have a stack of cards out front. I'll put them on the table, so you don't have to touch me or get close to me. I wouldn't either. I hate politicians. But you know that you'll have my email and my cell phone number on there. Now, I can tell you this. There sometimes is a misperception. I chair a committee on legislative oversight called Healthcare and Regulations. DHEC is under the purview of my committee. What we do is we're on a cycle whereby we hold public hearings and we analyze what they've done over those years that are within the study parameters. And it gets pretty laborious. They have a lot of things that they have to report back to us. It's really good for us. It's good for them because it makes things more efficient. That's really what we ought to be doing. But it's not just DHEC. I don't know how many employees y'all have now. I'm not sure. Thousands. Are y'all bigger than DSS now? You are, right? If you think about what they do, you can't imagine the number of employees. DSS is also under our committee, Department of Mental Health, vocational rehabilitation, DDSN. We've got it all, just about, a lot of the big ones. And so it's an arduous process. I will tell you this. I know it's not an easy job for them. They're not just dealing with this. They are slammed with COVID-19 right now. It's not fun. And our problem is that we didn't do our job for them years ago. They had across-the-board cuts from 2008 to 2012. So they weren't up, they didn't have the employees they needed in some areas to do that. And then we've done other cuts since then. So we've been trying to be efficient, not overspend, but get things kind of tight through the legislative oversight process. Rick Caldwell represents them in Columbia, and I will promise you this. I don't always like the outcome, but I've never had Rick Caldwell fail to return a call to me about any constituent issue. And I can't say Maria's last name. Ustanesus? Yeah, it's a lot easier that way. Anything from perk test, anything you can imagine, and it's a very quick response. And I say that because sometimes we don't understand the level of expertise they have to have in a whole myriad of areas, okay? And so it's a big deal. So I'm not here to defend DHEC. What I am here to do is to make sure that as the state of South Carolina, we do everything that Senator Gambrill and I can to find solutions to the problems that are facing you. We can assign blame all day. It's not going to fix things. What I want to do is to hear what you say. I know Ms. Wilson's been heavily involved in this over the years, not only with this issue, but other issues. And then she's diligent when it comes to environmental impact. So that I appreciate. What I will promise you to do is to go back, and I'm going to talk to Senator Gambrell, and my goal would be for Senator Gambrell and I to get maybe a little more information on some of the testing mechanisms that they're using, the technology that they're using. Is there newer technology that's out there for testing? Do we have other technology that may abate the odor issue that's taking place? We will look to see what's there. The problem is always going to be funding. And I wish I could stand here and tell you that the state of South Carolina spends every dollar perfectly. We do not. It's government, all right? That's just, it's not, I wish it was a business. I used to run pharmaceutical companies. I could do that all day long and make it work, right? It's just a different animal. But what I can promise you is, I can promise DHEC this, whatever that may be available to help with this issue, whether it's with waste management or testing, well testing, any pathogens within the air that are being emitted unintentionally, whatever it may be, we will work to find the resources to make sure that these folks can get the technology or the assistance that they need. Now, I don't think they make a huge bottle of Febreze yet, but maybe there's some other technology out there that we can put out there for you and see what we can do. For DHEC, my primary concern with these folks, from what I'm listening with Ms. McCullough and other things, I ran pharmaceutical companies, Ms. McCullough, and one of the companies I ran we invented a particular vaccine delivery system based on a nanoparticle. In essence, we could take that nanoparticle and attach any virus or cancer cell to it and use it for immunization. There's a whole lot of, you don't care about that. So I get that point of it very much, and the triggers and predisposition, genetic predisposition, all kind of things that go in, but there are also triggers out there, right? So I'm more concerned about your health than I am anything else. I want you to be able to live in your home, on your property, healthy. The odor, I get, Andy, is an issue, and we've talked about that. I don't know what technology is out there. I did pharmaceuticals. I don't know anything about trash. Some people probably say I do, but we'll see what we can find out. But what I can tell you after talking to Senator Gambrell is that we will do our part. A lot of times it's all about the resources that are outside of the budget that we either have to request in the next budget cycle or programs that have been available that we can access for you and for DHEC to see what we can remediate to make this thing work. That much I promise you. So I'm going to go get my cards. I know you don't want to hear any more from me. But like I said, my cell number's on there. If you call me, I think Cindy will tell you, I promise you, my goal is within 6 to 8 hours, if not that day. If you email me, it's the same thing, or text me. I will get back to you. I've had some Facebook messages just from this issue. And it's not fun. So I try to monitor everything, but it's not always easy. But you will hear back from us. But email is the best way, okay? So I'm going to slip out and let Ms. Wilson do it. But we'll see what we can't find and try to tackle this thing together. And I know Rick will let me know, okay, Julie?
Thank you, Representative West. So it is about 8:45 now. I know we want to get to Councilwoman Wilson's comments. We want to try and wrap up by 9, and we are fortunate tonight to have our Director of Environmental Affairs, Myra Reese, listening into the conversation, and she would like to say a few things after Councilwoman Wilson. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Laura, for Councilwoman Wilson to begin.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, DHEC, for making a really large effort under the circumstances to get here to meet with all of us, because a lot of us are still fossils and don't do the social mediums and that sort of thing. So we do appreciate your coming up. This community has suffered immeasurably for about 40, 50 years. We've got the landfill, we've got the Kinder Morgan pipeline spill, we've got the ethanol plant. If someone lit a match over there, the whole end of the county would blow up. It's that desperate situation. We do greatly appreciate the new company who's bought the landfill being more responsive and making an effort to improve matters over there, a really bad situation they bought into. They have made an effort. And DHEC has made an effort also to hear the issues we have here. I did want to request that we get maybe a set of minutes with names. I'm also getting hard of hearing, so I wanted to make sure of the constituents here, whatever their concerns were, that I had a full understanding of it. To capsulize what I think I've heard, some of our residents there have a concern of a possible cancer cluster that may be related to landfill and other issues. The smells, that has been the most horrible part of this year. We've had a lot of weather that had not helped the company's efforts in that regard. Trash on the roads, between the company and the county, we'll work together to try and get that situated. Potholes on the road, you now have a way to get in touch with one of us. Some of them are state roads, some of them are county roads, but we'll work together to make sure those are addressed. The bad wells and groundwater issues really do concern me terribly, and I would like to speak with this dear lady who expressed her concern of the bad well. We did do, as a county, some testing last year on possible issues with wells. We may need to come check your well. There's a lot to be done here. DHEC will continue communicating with us. County Council will have to vote on the expansion of the permit, and this is where we will need to work with everybody concerned, because we do have to have solid waste dealt with in the county unless any of us has a special permit to bury stuff on their own property. It throws us into the desperate situation where we do have to work together. But I don't think anyone not living in this community could imagine what y'all have gone through. And you do have our assurance that we haven't not been listening. We have been trying. We have a lot more work to do. So thank you, and I'll get out of the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Wilson, for summarizing everything for us. We really do appreciate it. And I will remind you and everyone else that's calling that a recording of this meeting will be posted on our webpage if you would like to listen to it after tonight. So before I hand it over to Myra Reese, I would like to just mention two things. Ms. Holloway, I see that you have another question on the Q&A board. That I think maybe Waste Connections would be the most appropriate people to answer that. So I would ask that you reach out to them with the phone numbers that we are going to provide online to have that question answered. I didn't want you to think that we forgot about you. And then after Myra is finished speaking, if I can just have a few minutes to cover some closing items, I would appreciate your time to do that. So with that, we will hand it over to Myra Reese, Director of Environmental Affairs at DHEC.
Thank you, Donna. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and I just wanted to make a few comments to wrap up this great discussion. And number one is I really want to thank all of you for taking time tonight to provide this feedback to us. It's obvious that you have concerns about this permitting decision that we're getting ready to make, and it's just so valuable for us to get this direct feedback from the communities that we serve. I want to assure you that healthy people living in healthy communities is our mission, but those words really mean something to us. And I hope that you can sense that when you hear the responses from our staff, and just the passion and the commitment they have to support the work that we do, and also to be able to address the concerns that you have. We will make the best decisions we can if we have feedback from the communities that are impacted by our decisions. We know that your quality of life is impacted by all of our decisions. We've heard some things tonight about concerns about cancer incidents. There are things I've been texting some of my staff. They will assure you that we're going to immediately make sure that we're providing some additional feedback to you. Concerns about private wells, we need to be out there and making sure that we're working with you directly on concerns that you have about your water quality and odors. Everything that was expressed tonight, I greatly appreciate that feedback. And I just want to make sure that you know that we are very committed to go back and address these concerns as we continue to look at this project and make the decisions ahead of us. So Councilwoman Wilson and Representative West, thank you so much for being part of this as well. We really appreciate the true engagement of our leaders in our state and at the local level, and also ultimately the community and the constituents that are impacted by the decisions we make on a daily basis. We truly cannot make the best decisions as an agency unless we have meaningful engagement from the communities we serve. So I greatly appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew from me, I'm responsible for all the environmental programs in the state of South Carolina, and I will assure you that your feedback really means something to me and to the staff that work for DHEC. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Donna.
Thank you so much, Myra. That is one of the benefits of this platform, is it's a really great way to have so many of our staff listening in to the comments, and certainly having Myra be able to listen to those, because she is always very engaged with our communities, and we appreciate her taking the time to be here with us as well. So there are a few things that I just wanted to cover as we wrap up, unless we had anything from the Civic Center or Christy on the phone lines that needs to be attended to before that.
No, I just want to thank everyone for helping the tech team make this virtual meeting that also has its in-person component work tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Christy. Laura, how about you? Are you good on your end?
I believe we're all good here. I do appreciate everyone's patience with us as we allowed folks to be in person and walking up to the microphone to make their comments. Thank you guys for being here in person also, and for our tech team for assisting us with this. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I would like to show slide 16 again and remind you of a few things before we close. DHEC will accept written comments on the proposed tonnage increase through July 10th, 2020. Once the public comment period closes, DHEC will review and consider all comments received prior to making a final decision. Additional information may also be requested from the applicant. Once a final decision is made, a summary response to all written comments will be posted on our webpage and provided to everyone on our mailing list. You have the right to request a final review of any permit decision made by DHEC. The final review request must be submitted in writing to DHEC's Clerk of the Board, along with a filing fee in the amount of $100 within 15 days after notice of DHEC's permit decision has been mailed. In consideration of this requirement, you will receive notification of DHEC's permit decision by standard U.S. mail or by email. If you wish to be notified of DHEC's decision by certified mail instead, please make your request in writing no later than July 10th, 2020. Please let us know that you participated tonight by completing the registration form on our webpage. Completing this form will also let us know how to notify you of DHEC's final decision. It will remain open through close of business tomorrow. Also, there's a link on our webpage to a public meeting survey. We are very interested in knowing your thoughts and suggestions about tonight's virtual meeting and how DHEC can improve the way we communicate and share information with you. Please take a moment to complete this survey within the next couple of days. There is a way on that survey to leave your name and number if you would like follow-up after this evening. So for those of you that we've talked with and that we have promised to get back in touch with, just please make sure that we have your contact information so that we are able to do that. Finally, if we do not have an answer to your question tonight, if we were unable to answer it, or if you would like for us to provide you with more information, please give us a call or send us an email. We will be happy to talk with you more. And I've gotten a notification that the survey is live on our webpage, so as soon as we end this meeting, please take a moment to go there to give us your feedback. With that, on behalf of DHEC, I would again like to thank you for your participation and patience this evening. For those of you joining us from the Civic Center, we would ask that you please remember to social distance as you exit the arena there. And for everyone that's joining us tonight, please stay safe and continue to follow state guidelines to minimize the spread of COVID-19. And that will end our meeting. Thank you so much. Good night.